Hello. Have you ever seen a ghost? You ever seen a ghost? She asked. She tells you it's a question she's been asking everyone she meets lately. You tell her you haven't really, but that you once heard the eerie sounds of a woman sobbing, drifting up from the courtyard of your old apartment in Korea. You didn't see anyone down there, so you like to think some sort of sad girl specter was haunting the building, if not you specifically. You look down at your phone for the first time since the two of you started talking, thinking it's been maybe an hour. It's been 3, which may not be significant for most, but it is for you, who rarely gets lost in the flow of a conversation, who is forced to begrudgingly accept the Quiet as a Mouse award multiple times in elementary and middle school. You had the same principal for both, a la Boy Meets World, except he was a fun principal. You don't know it yet, but the one before you is a ghost. Not literally, as far as you know, but one day she just sort of disappears from your life. For now, though, you have to leave more abruptly than you'd like because you're late to meet your parents. Your mom loves to worry over nothing. She's already texted you multiple times, had your dad text you multiple times, and called you, which your family usually reserves for those occasions when someone either dies or has a baby. You make plans before you part because you know you want to see her again, and you will, because she's not a ghost yet. You fast forward to the last time you see her. You walk her back to her car because it's the gentlemanly thing to do. And your AFAB, assigned female at birth, friends have told you about their kidnapping concerns in dark or even well-lit parking lots. Unrelated, but ever since assigned whichever gender at birth entered the lexicon, every time you see ACAB, you think assigned cop at birth. As you approach her car, she tells you about how she's an excellent driver until she's around poles, and shows you the side view mirror that's dangling from her car by a roll of duct tape, some Gorilla Glue, and whatever willpower a car can muster. It will not survive the summer, you think to yourself. It's not going to last through the summer, she says out loud, but you only need one serviceable side view mirror in Texas. You do not look this up because she's extremely cute, and sometimes that's enough. You ask when you can see her again. The end of the semester is a busy time for a PhD student, and she has grades due, so her weekend is a mess. You say you're not in a rush, but would love to see her again, so you'll text her. You hug, kiss her on the cheek, and walk away grinning like a moron because for the first time in a while, there's potential with someone who's the right kind of weird and funny and seems to match your energy. You're smitten. You're about to feel like an idiot. You text her the next day because waiting around is from sitcoms. You don't expect to hear back immediately, so you go about your day. You learn too much from time on dating apps that different people have different habits when it comes to texting, and she's shown that even if it takes a bit, she responds. She doesn't. But whatever, that's cool. The panic and grief won't set in as quickly as they used to. You've been to therapy and have a certain set of skills that make you a Liam Neeson type when it comes to processing your anxiety. She's busy, you tell yourself, because that's what she told you herself, and you can believe her until she gives you a reason not to. You employ your anxiety skill number 1, distraction. You lose yourself in a book until that doesn't work and put on a movie, going back and forth between the two for as long as your anxious mind will allow. You brainstorm date ideas that match your shared interests and reach out to your more social friends who actually go places and do things. For the first time in a while, you want to put effort into building a relationship because you met someone who makes you want to try. A couple of days pass with no response, and you begin to feel the inklings of anxiety. But this is still within the realm of reason. You know because you went back through your messages and you looked at the pattern of her responses. You haven't had to send her a nudge that often, so it makes sense to do it now, right? You employ anxiety skill number 2, your notes app. Anytime you get the urge to text her, you pull up your notes app and write it out. You erase whatever was there before, so you don't know exactly how many versions of a text you've written, because you don't want to feel sad and pathetic. There's time for that later. Ultimately, you ask if she wants to go to the Arboretum next weekend because you have a shared interest of wandering aimlessly through nature but also limits your risk of bear attacks. This sates your anxiety for the time being, and for a while, distractions are enough again. You don't always have a distraction, though. Whenever your mind wanders, it wanders to her. She looms in the corners of your mind, egging you on as you dissect every aspect of your last interaction, reminding you of the potential you felt in that connection and making you feel like a loser. Eventually, you truly lose your grip on your anxiety and your imagination runs wild with it. You imagine her in a car wreck, optimistically, whispering your name over and over in a desperate bid not to slip into a coma. You imagine her in a car wreck, pessimistically, but decide to turn the first version into your headcanon because you really still want her to be okay and would never wish harm on her. You also may or may not have checked the obituaries just in case. Instead of smitten, you feel smitten and haunted. You decide to reach out one last time in a few days because she feels worth a minor amount of embarrassment in the event that she's actually just been busy. In the meantime, you return to your notes app and employ anxiety skill number 3, venting to anyone who will listen. You're able to rein this in because, again, you've been in therapy and are better at processing your anxiety than you were 10 years ago when you would have just put multiple final nails into the coffin of this proto-relationship. You focus on a few friends and rotate through conversations so they don't grow weary of hearing about this too quickly. Friend 1 and 2 review a couple of versions of your notes app text and give you feedback. Friend 3 shares a story she's never told you before in which she pushed away her now husband early on because she wasn't quite ready for what he was offering or didn't realize she was. You let this spark a little hope because you're not quite ready to lose your grasp on the potential yet. You distract yourself by sorting through the books piling up on your floor to find ones you're willing to donate and find the unopened bag of Guatemalan worry dolls someone you were dating the year prior gave you after a trip to Salem. Worry dolls are tiny people who live in a tiny bag that goes under your pillow. They listen to your problems and concerns so that you don't have to carry them as you sleep. You don't really buy into that sort of thing, and you're not so desperate that you'd use them, but you do put the bag on your nightstand. You reach the predetermined date and time to send off that final message, and you do. Again, you don't expect to hear back right away. You don't have any expectations at all at this point. That night, you're desperate enough to open the bag of worry dolls. You feel ridiculous as you speak out loud to these tiny Guatemalans. But you dig deep and get vulnerable with them. You tell them you're tired of going on dates and carrying on conversations in search of connections like this, only to lose them. But that you'll keep at it because as frustrating as it is, you're also afraid of ending up alone. You tell them that part of you still hopes she gets in touch. You tell them how pathetic that makes you feel and how dumb you feel talking to dolls. You wake up still feeling dumb, but a little less sad. You're definitely still sad, but progress is progress. You repeat the process that night because what do you have to lose? You wish you had a better ending to this, so you imagine a future in which you run into your ghost. You're at a reading, and she taps you on the shoulder. You turn and gasp, and in your best Shaggy impersonator, you exclaim, "The ghost!" You imagine this chance encounter as an opportunity to reconnect, and while it's a somber feeling, it's nice. So you let your imagination run through the potential future with your ghost. You fast forward to an appropriate amount of time later and envision a future in which you propose, get married, and move out of the city to an area that allows you easy access to nature while still limiting the risk of bear attacks. You imagine some party where someone asks the two of you, "Have you ever seen a ghost?" You reply, "Seen one? I married one." You step back into the present knowing this is an unlikely possibility. So you pack it into a box and you put it on a shelf in your mind. You understand why people ghost because you've done it before, although you swear you'll never do it again. It's not always because the person doesn't care so much as that they believe they're shielding someone from the pain of their words or rejection. The problem with this is that ghosts don't disappear. They haunt. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Woo! Yes! Woo! And thank you, Michael McFadden, for writing Have You Ever Seen a Ghost? I bet a lot of you now realize that you do have a ghost story and a new use for notes. All right. Our next story, Why Walmart? Why? Written by Jay Hickman and read by Helen Alt.